While we're waiting for a few more people to log in, just wanted to go ahead and bring up our agenda for today. Today we're going to talk about bringing on new clients, just some of the ways that we can make this easier and more streamlined. So today's agenda, we are going to cover custom contact forms along with metadata. We'll be covering the client intake documents, labels and filters, and we also have within this agenda, we have several courses in our marketplace that will go into further detail. So for today, I'm going to go kind of high-level overview, show you what it looks like when it's set up. But if you want to learn a little bit more, dive in a little bit deeper, within our CentralReach marketplace account, under public, as well as CentralReach trainings under practice management, you're going to find some of these courses. So you can see we have one for custom contact form creation. We have a note and form training course, labels training course, and then if you wanted to go further on how to set up a client once they're within the system, we also have a client onboarding training course. All of these courses are free within the marketplace. Once you go into the marketplace from your own personal account, you can go ahead and purchase them for free. And then once you have them, you can assign them to yourself and take the courses. There's practice materials in there as well. We also have some videos, some task analysis to walk you through all the different steps. So if you see something that you're interested in today and just kind of want to learn a little bit more about it, those courses are a great place to go. And they can all be found at the centralreach.com/marketplace. And I'm just going to give about 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to jump into our webinar. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So we're going to start off today talking about how to bring in new clients. Some different steps that you can take to make this a little bit easier for you, help you track, help you be able to see as they come in. So again, my name is Jill Umstead. I'm a BCBA. I'm a Director of Training and Implementation here at CentralReach. And throughout this presentation, if you do have any questions, I also have Katie Hahn on the line with us. She will be handling all of the chat questions as they come in. So if you see something and you want to ask a question, feel free to go ahead. She's going to try to type as much of the answers as she can. And then at the end, if there's anything that we need to go over a little bit further, happy to demonstrate that as we go. All right, so jumping right in, I'm going to start off by looking at our custom contact forms. So we talk about custom contact forms. Think of that as a one-time account generation. This is the first time somebody comes into the system, a way to house a lot of information very quickly, gather it, organize it, and put it in the system where it belongs. Custom contact forms can be used for clients, employees, applicants. For today, we're going to focus specifically on clients. So I have one here that's called the intake form, which is specifically for client intake information. What you'll notice when I click on this is we have options to either make this public or private. For purposes of today, we're looking specifically at public. We're looking at how can we gather information quickly from potential clients and not have everything have to be done by an intake team. So putting a little bit more out so the clients can put in more information on their own. You'll see a link here. We're going to come back to that a little bit later. You can set up as many custom contact forms within your own account as you'd like. Do keep in mind, this is something that is permissioned out. So not everybody in the agency will have the ability to create or use custom contact forms. That's going to be set specifically on who you'd like to be able to bring in new clients into the system. We do have a good custom contact form course that you can take. It's going to go through this in a lot more detail, but I want to highlight a few key points today for walking through our process. One of the great things about custom contact forms is you can tell things in advance that you want the system to do. So it saves a lot of time after somebody goes into the system that you don't have to go back and take too many extra steps. What you'll see here is I have an automatic connection. So certain people will automatically be connected. And I can tell the system not only connect them, but give them access to documents and notes and authorizations and things like that. What's really critical for your own processes is that you have a specific label anytime somebody comes in the system. So for this one, we're using needs verification. So if somebody is on the outside putting in information and they come into your system, you want to be able to know quickly how many people do I have that recently came in. Labels are going to be your key to organizing as well as starting a process. Another key highlight here, we always get asked a lot, well, how would I know when a contact comes in? How do I know that a client filled out a new form? Well, it's a great question. And here you can have identified who's going to be notified every time this form is filled out. So for this one, we have Andy Carmichael will be notified to actually get an email, and it would say, this form has been used. That's the trigger to then go into the system and find out, using the needs verification label, who came in, who are the new people. It's not going to pull any information out in that email. Again, this is HIPAA secured, so it's just going to let you know that the form has been used. Another great thing when you're putting this information out to gather, you can actually have potential clients upload documentation right off the bat. So you can have the system request things like insurance cards, copy of diagnostic reports. It's great because they can quickly do it. They can take a picture of it. They can upload it. You're one step ahead now when you go to contact them to reach out to possibly set up an assessment. You should have a little bit more information at your fingertips. You'll see that I've also labeled as the documents do come in. I've told the system to automatically label these documents. This is going to help us down the road to be able to filter and search, be able to find what we need to. Again, the custom contact form course goes into a lot more detail, but this is pretty much the highlights for today and ensuring that you have a label set up. Somebody has been identified to notify that this contact form has been used and that the files have been uploaded. The next section is fields. So fields is a way to gather as much information up front as possible. What you're going to notice when you're looking at fields, you're going to see two different types of fields. You're going to see one that's what we call the standard profile field. Anything that has that icon is information that's already stored within the system. CentralReach already has a field for it. You can go ahead and fill it out and it'll put it directly in where it belongs. It's going to be a lot more organized than having to try to do it later. What you'll also notice when you click on these, you have the option to make these items required. If you do make an item required, the one thing to keep in mind is that somebody will not be able to proceed in completing that form when they go to get into the system for the first time unless that information has been filled out. So if there's something that you don't want to prevent somebody from, well, they don't have that information, I don't want them to stop, I still want them to be able to come in, then don't make it required. If it's something that you absolutely must have in order to continue, a lot of times it will make required. What you'll notice down here in this icon, these are things that we build from what we call custom metadata. Custom metadata is a way to create new fields within the system. So we have, the standard fields, most commonly used, most likely needed for billing information, intake information, things like that. But you also have the ability to build as many metadata fields as you'd like. So if you're looking to be able to say, okay, I really want to know information about this client the first time they come in, you can build metadata fields. I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. A couple key items about metadata. This information is really helpful to gather up front. It does store within the system, And once it's in the system, it can be used multiple times throughout. So you can use it later on for documents, for assessments. You can use it to reference later on. I always like to say, as a parent who has had to fill out information multiple times, I always like to say, well, it'd be really nice if you could just store my information and then we don't have to keep doing this. So it really does help a client to be able to put their information in the first time, have it stored, and then you can reuse it later on. You don't have to go back to the parent and say, can you please fill this out again? So I think parents really like that as well. So you can see I've got some here already, diagnosing physicians, current insurance, things like that. But let's just say that there's something that's missing. You really want to gather another piece of information. So maybe we want to know, last time they received therapy. Under our contacts, under utilities and tools, which is the same place we have our contact forms, we also have our metadata settings. You can see these are all ones that I've built so far. If I wanted to add another one, I can simply click Add New, and I can come in and type last therapy received. I can tell the system whether this belongs to a client or an employee. I do have options here to change this from a free text. We could also do single selects, multi-selects. We could do yes or no. This is great when you're working on trying to gather information quickly. So we all know the lower the response effort, the more responses we're going to get. So if we can make it an easier way for them to just click a box or check a box, it's going to make it quicker for them to fill out. Hopefully, you'll get a little bit more information. You also have the ability to show it on the face sheet, which is the main page for the client. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. By doing that, it's going to allow that to come up right away when you log in. So things like maybe an allergy or something that's really critical for someone to be able to see right off the bat, you might want to show it on the face sheet. So if somebody logs into that client's account before they're ready to go see them, they can quickly know what their allergy is. So you always have that option as well. Metadata does save automatically, so there's no need for a save button. And what you'll see is once I've added that here, when I return to my form and I click Save and I refresh my form, what you'll see is the new one I've just added now becomes available for me. All I have to do is slide this over. Again, this is a great way if every intake process seems to be different, so you can make it unique to your personal organization. You can gather the information that you need maybe as an organization, or also maybe a payers need specific information. So you're able to put that in there. One other option here on the end is an email notification. You can tell the system whether or not you'd like somebody who's filled this out to receive an email. So if we say yes, they're going to get a welcome email, and you can include any information in there that you'd like. So here I just have a little note that says that somebody from the intake team will reach out to them within 3 business days. This will also allow them to set up their own CentralReach account, which is going to be important for some of the next steps that we're going to show. Making sure that we're able to get parents to log in, getting people to be able to sign documents, things like that. It's very important. So you can choose to do this right away by checking the button. It'll go out automatically, or you can uncheck it and then you can control when somebody logs in and you can give them their own separate email. Once you have your form set up the way that you want it and you click Save, it's going to take us back to this page. So remember I talked about this link. So right now it's set as public, which means that this link can be used for people to access from outside of the system. This can be embedded into a website. This could be maybe emailed, depending on what your own process is. Some people like to have somebody call first, get information, then they send them the link to have it filled out. Other people like to put it on the website and allow for potential clients to come on board. Maybe people are searching things late at night. They want to fill out information, gather that. Maybe they don't want to make a phone call, so this does give them that option. When you click this link, it's going to take you to the form. This is what somebody would see from the outside. So if they clicked that link, you emailed that link, this is how it would come up for them. What you'll notice about the form is there are some with asterisks on them. Anything with an asterisk on it means that we told the system it was required. So that's what I was talking about earlier, in the sense that you want to be able to gather the information that you absolutely have to have. So we cannot move on unless you at least give me, first and last name, address, and phone number. On the other hand, if you wanted to say, well, I don't really need that information right now, we can always get it later, you can do that as well. You'll notice the check boxes. So again, trying to make it as easy as possible. These are just some examples. You can make these whatever you'd like, specific to your organization. But by having those check boxes, it might be a little bit easier than having to type it out. So when in doubt, you can put a checkbox in. I always try to. Gathering a little bit more information as well, availability for assessment as well as ongoing services. Again, just examples, but that might determine, who's going to call them back if they want a morning session versus an afternoon session, or how quickly somebody would be able to get back to them. There's options. Some of these boxes are a little smaller, looking for just small pieces of information, versus larger boxes for anywhere that there's going to be a lot of information typed. What you're also going to notice here at the bottom is we talked about those documents in the custom contact form that we were setting up. You have the ability here that they can upload documents directly into the system. So what's great about this is if they're on a phone or an iPad or anything like that, they'd be able to click this and have the option to even just take the picture and upload it right away. So insurance card seems to be the most important one that a lot of people are looking for. So by clicking that button, they can quickly take a picture of that insurance card front and back and get it moved onto the system. So from there, that also, based on how we set up the custom contact form, we also have the ability to classify the documents based on their labels. And I'm going to show you a little bit on that as well. Again, the more information you can gather up front, the better it's going to be for you to make determinations and moving forward. Once this form is done and hit submit, that is going to generate the account for the first time. So that'll be when now this person now has an account within CentralReach, and now you can take it the next step to go ahead and set it up. So I'm going to show you one that has already been set up. So here you're seeing Lawrence Cohen's account. Within this, you can see how the information that was gathered throughout that contact form has already been placed in the appropriate places. You'll notice that one of those metadata fields, it did say show on face sheet. So like we were talking about with allergies, might be something that's really important. You kind of want everybody to be able to say, hey, this person has an allergy, make sure you know about it. All that other information, if you click on add or edit metadata, you can see all the other information behind the scenes. So here you have all of the details that have already been filled out that came in from that contact form. If for some reason they left some items blank, you can always come in here and edit that later. So once they're in here, you'll also notice that needs verification label is on. That is, again, our way of saying this is a brand new person. They just came in the system. Action needs to be taken. Somebody needs to follow up. Somebody needs to verify. Are we continuing? Are we going to move them to pending services or assessment needed? You can create as many labels as you'd like to move throughout the process, but you definitely want to make sure that there's a process and somebody who's monitoring that. So we had told the system that Andy Carmichael was in charge of everyone that comes in. So now Andy Carmichael will get a notification. This form's been used. You can go in, search that needs verification label, see everybody that's in there. So once we're coming through here now, you're going to be able to take the next step of getting documentation, making sure that you're keeping everything as HIPAA secured as possible. So as a BCBA who, for many years had to download and print and bring documents, have them signed, have them scanned, and then uploaded somewhere, you're opening up a lot of opportunities for taking things out of a HIPAA secured environment and now putting them into potentially somebody's folder, potentially an email, things like that. So what I've created here is a note and form. Again, we have a great note and form course that'll take you through all the steps of creating notes and forms. We also have some basic ones already created. We have samples within the system that you can go ahead and copy and tweak to match whatever your organization's workflow is. But for this purposes, if I'm Andy Carmichael and I'm in charge now of making sure that Lawrence Cohen, the next steps are completed. So it needs verification. We also need to make sure we get a consent form on file. So I'm simply going to come over to my notes and forms. When you hover over the widget, you're going to see the plus button. When I click on that, I can add a new one. I've created one called an intake questionnaire and consent form. By clicking on this, I'm generating this document. I'm basically getting it started. One of the key items here that a lot of people ask about is, is this something that can just be blanketed for everyone? And the answer is no, because these are personal information that we have tied directly to Lawrence's account. So when we filled out that custom contact form and all that metadata information, that's personal just to this one client's account. When the note and form was built, we were able to drop in items to say, pull that metadata in automatically. So all of the information that is stored within Lawrence's account, you'll notice it pulled automatically into this note and form that I just generated. What this does, again, is it saves the family or the parents or the caregivers from having to go in and then re-enter information. I just filled all of that out in a contact form. Why are you asking for it again? So it's a great tool to be able to capture that information, store it, and I was able to just put up here, please verify that this information below is accurate. I did add a couple extra boxes to say, okay, maybe reason for assessment, you only gave me like 1 or 2 lines, but let's go ahead and make sure that if there's need for any other information, we can also capture that. So we can see there that there's going to be some options, and I'm going to show you how the parent can sign it as well. So what I'm doing here is simply generating the documents within Lawrence's account. It's now going to be specifically to this one client's account. You can see it even has his name on it. I'm not going to fill anything out because this is for the family. I've pre-populated as much information that already came into the system. And I'm simply just going to click Save. By doing this, I've now created this account. I can click here to open it in a file. And this URL becomes specific just to this document. So this is an easy way to capture the information you need, get that link, simply going to copy it, and from there, you can actually have the clients log in. So if you have it where a client automatically gets that notification, they may already be in the account. If not, you may have to send them a password and get them set up for the first time. Once they're logged in to their own personal account, I'm now logged in as if I'm the client. The link that I copied is specific to that document. So you can simply copy the link, either put it in an email, however you're communicating, send that to the family. The only way they'll be able to access it is if they log into their own account. So again, it stays secure. I didn't download anything. I didn't have to change anything. You would just need to let them know. They would need to click on the button that says Note and Form. And now this is looking at it from their account. Again, we're saying go ahead and verify that all of this information is accurate. Now, if I'm the parent and I want to add a few extra things, I can always come in here and continue to type. I also have the ability to have my consent form right here as well. I can simply agree to the services, and I can sign. I did also tell the system to go ahead and timestamp this, so you'll see the date and time happens automatically. So it has an automatic timestamp, and all I'm going to do is hit save. I can see that my file has now been saved. Again, nothing was downloaded, nothing was taken out of the system. When I return back to Lawrence's profile and I refresh, I can now see that I have a questionnaire under my notes and forms. It's also under my files. I click on the file and click preview, and there's my signature, along with a date and a time. So I was able to just obtain a consent form from a family to provide an assessment, capture background information, automatically populate that information within the note and form, and have it all saved. The information I use to populate here can also be used with an assessment down the road. It can pre-populate into, progress reports or any kind of documentation you need by storing it in that metadata field. Again, you can build as many metadata fields as you'd like. So that's going to take us through the first part of the training of the webinar of looking at how would we get that information in, how do we store it. Another thing I'd like to cover today is, okay, now we've got it in, but how do I see it? How do I know what I have? So what I'm taking you into now is our files. Within our files module, you have the ability to create labels. There's labels throughout the system. There's contact labels, which are our most powerful labels. Those work throughout all different modules. But within each of the other modules, we do also have the ability to create labels that are specific to those. This one is specific to files. So I'm looking at the files labels. I can quickly search, okay, show me all consent and intake documents. Or show me only diagnostic testing. Maybe just show me the insurance cards. Quickly filtering through there. Also have the ability to create what we call saved filters. Saved filters is a way of adding a label, a category, multiple different things that you can then store. So for instance, I created one that's new client consent that needs a signature. Okay, so Lawrence's mom signed, which is great. However, we had another client come in, Mikey Walsh, and we also sent a questionnaire to Mikey Walsh, but unfortunately that hasn't been signed yet. I can quickly filter down to anybody who hasn't signed the consent form or any form that I've decided to gather the information I need. And then quickly I can say, okay, we can't do an assessment yet. We have to get consent on file. Right here, I can go ahead and just reach right out to Mikey's mom and say, I really need that consent form. Our assessment scheduled for next Thursday. Can you go ahead and take care of that for me? Again, Andy Carmichael right now is the one who's in charge. So she would be coming in here and checking before, maybe it's once a day, maybe it's once a week, but she can come in and check and say, okay, who hasn't signed their forms yet? And you can build these filters using our preloaded filters here, along with the combination of labels. So I combined a label of needs verification, which is going to be all of our new clients. That's our contact label. I combined that with a file label. So now we're looking at the consent and intake questionnaire. And then I also utilized our signature filter to say it hasn't been signed by everybody. By combining these three items and saving them as a saved filter, it then stores here, and each time I don't have to come in and type each one of these in, I can simply just go to my saved filters. And you can always create a saved filter just by clicking on setting the way that you want it set. click on your saved filter, and then you can title it whatever you'd like. You can also check the box to allow others in the organization to subscribe to that filter. Hey, that's a great one. I want everybody looking at the same information across the company. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Then I can have 3 different people logging into their own accounts and know for sure that we're looking at the same data. So that's going to take us through, how do I know whether or not people signed it? But the other question that's often asked is, how do I know if all of the clients have the necessary files that they need? You know, what if they didn't click the upload my insurance card? What if they skipped that part? If you purchase the document management and have that added onto your account, you'll have access to not only creating your own document management templates, but also a document management report. So for this one, I've created a document management template that's specific to client intake. I only want to look at clients. I don't need to look at everybody. I can quickly see the 3 documents that I've said are recommended for all clients. You can say documents are recommended or required, but I've said these 3 are recommended. I can see that we have some that are on file and some that are missing. I can also open up these files right from here. And again, this is the one that was missing the signature. So I can quickly open up and preview that file to see that the client hasn't signed yet. Within this document management report, you can search for missing this file or has this file. Gives you the ability to search multiple information at one time. You also have a way to configure the grid on the side and say, you know what, I only want to look at diagnostic reports because that's what we're getting audited on next week, and I need to make sure that every client has one on file. If any of your documents had expiration dates, you could also set that. I set all of these to not have an expiration date, but if it's something where that diagnostic report, you need a new one every year or every 3 years, you can actually tell the system to expire that document, which would then allow you to use these filters and look at what's expiring. And what's effective is when the date starts, but you can always look at what's expiring, what's already expired, what's expiring this week. Gives you the ability to quickly search those items. I can also look for the last ones that were uploaded, and I can look at the dates that they came in. This gives us a lot of quick reference to say, okay, I'm getting audited. I need to know if I have a copy of an consent form. I can quickly run a report on that, pull up anything that's missing, and quickly rectify it. So one other item too, if you notice here that Lawrence Cohen is missing, when those documents came in, they were quickly labeled. So going back to our resources, I can search by labels. So I can search by diagnostic testing. I can see that there's a new one that came in. And I have the ability to classify the document. When I come back to my report and I refresh it, you can see now that Lawrence has a copy of his diagnostic report on file. And from there, you can set up your, again, saved filters if there's certain categories that you want to be able to search all the time. That concludes our helping to make client onboarding easier. And I'm going to go ahead and open up if anybody has some questions. I know that Katie has been answering throughout. So if anybody wants to continue to type some questions. And I think, let's see. I see some on here that looks like Katie may have already answered. Okay, so keep asking. It looks like Katie's answered a good majority of the questions. So if your question hasn't been answered or there's something you want to see more of, please go ahead and type in there. I know somebody was asking about how to filter what is completed and not. So I think that has been covered. Is it possible to delete duplicate clients entered by mistake? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. So when you're looking at clients, under the profile and under basics, you'll see that it's active. If there's an extra one duplicated, maybe they filled it out, you filled it out a second time, you can simply just make it inactive, and then that's going to pull it off of your active screen. You could also change the name if you wanted it to, have it's a different person or somebody messed up the name or something like that. It was supposed to be somebody else. We could do that as well, but the easiest way is just to go ahead and make it inactive. All right. Can you talk about permission for the parent setting? So parents right now will have very basic, what I showed you when I slid that screen over, that's basically what they're going to see. So they can see things like their schedule. They can only see documents that you share with them. So just because a document is uploaded to a client's file, it does become part of their electronic medical record. So once that's in there, it is part of the record. However, until you click the button to share that with the client or the owner of that document, they won't be able to see it. So you do control when something is being seen. Let's see. Can a parent fill out a basic registration form without making a CR account? So if you were to not click on, let's go back to our custom contact forms. If you wanted to go ahead and unclick this button, they could still fill out that custom contact form, which would still generate them a CentralReach account. Remember, there's no charge for client accounts. So you can have clients coming in through that way. But if this box isn't checked, they wouldn't actually get an email alert. So they wouldn't know that that account is set up yet. If you wanted to have clients sign documents but not log into the account, what could be done is there's a way to set up your documents to say, allow for a signature to be collected from a provider account. So in those situations, we do have some companies that say, well, a lot of our parents aren't really going to log in. We really want to utilize not having to print it. But instead of taking printed paper copies to the client's home, instead the BCBA, the speech therapist, the occupational therapist could come in and pull up that information from their own account and then have the client sign from there. That is completely up to you. You can determine whether or not you want to allow them to sign only from their account, or if you would like to allow them to sign in from a provider account as well. So a couple more questions coming in here. So how do parents log into the system? How are they given their login information? If this box is checked, they would get a alert saying that they have a new CentralReach account. It'll walk them through how to go ahead and set that up. The other thing is you can also save that and do that yourself. So in a client's account, if you're in a client's account, under profile, you have the ability for username and password. Usernames are going to default. These are unique throughout all of CentralReach. So if there's more than one L Cohen, you can see this one came up as L Cohen 5. You can then set a password for the client if you'd like, set them up with a temporary one. You can provide that to them, either if you're physically talking to them or with them, or you could send it. We do recommend if you're going to send it that you send it separate, the username and the password separate, or if you have them on the phone, you can give them a temporary password and then just recommend that they go ahead and log in and go ahead and make sure that they change their password. Kimberly, I'm not sure I'm understanding that question. You might want to try that one again. All right, can you hide the URL to the contact form? I think Katie may have already answered that one. Yep, Katie already got that one. Great. Somebody's asking about system alerts when something is needed. So there are a couple other options within the system. If you've purchased the task module, you can send tasks. Tasks are a great way to think of them as a to-do list. So you could send over a task to somebody and say, please complete this information by a set amount of time. You can then also see whether or not the task has been completed, if a comment's been made, if it's been deleted. You can set due dates. You can filter by things that have not been completed yet, things that are pending, all kinds of stuff. But the other way of searching is a lot of these filters that I was showing you, making it part of the process. So once a week, somebody goes in and pulls up all clients that have needs verification label and ensures that whatever the next step is that needs to happen, that they go ahead and do that. So somebody's asking about adding documents they want to track in their document management report. So if you've purchased the document management report, the document management module, you can create document templates. You can create one specifically for clients. You can create ones for BCBAs, for credentialing, for anything like that. And then you tell the system that you want it to be either have an expiration date or be labeled a certain thing. It does help. It then pulls into your report. You can then see who does and doesn't have it. You're able to quickly filter. On the employee side, the employee also, and I know there's a great webinar that was happened last week. If you all missed it, maybe you can catch the recording of it. But they talked about how when employees come in, you can actually have their files be, they can upload their own files, automatically have them classified, be able to pull in all of that information, take a little bit off your HR team, that they don't have to be the ones to solely bear the responsibility of getting documents in. You can set expiration dates, all of those fun things. Katie's doing a really good job answering all those questions. I'm just trying to catch the ones that she wasn't able to get to yet. Let's see. I think I've answered most of these. All right, if anybody has questions that weren't answered, if you want to go ahead and try to restate them, we'll be happy to try to tackle those as well. And if there was any topics that you liked, again, if you haven't checked out those courses in the marketplace, you might find a lot more information there to kind of walk through some of the how to do it, how to click through it. If anybody is interested in the document management, you can always reach out to your success lead or sales team member and be able to get a little bit more information on that. It's a really fun one to be able to keep track, especially for credentialing purposes. Yeah, I can show you the document management template real quick. So let's just say I want to create one specifically for BCBA credentialing. I can title, let's say BCBA certification. I can tell the system to either make it recommended or required. Let's say we're going to call it required. I can go ahead and save that. I could add, maybe I need, I don't know, CAQH number. And you'd build, the way that templates work, the document templates work, is that they're going to be tied directly to a label. So for that last one I showed you on the client, that was tied directly to needs verification as well as pending an assessment, any of the labels that are tying directly to the clients. For this one, I might say, well, I only need this to show up for BCBAs. Once you create a document template, you have the ability to give me 1 second. You have the ability now in any account that has the label that matches the template you created. So that one was specifically for a BCBA credential. Andy Carmichael is labeled a BCBA. I can now see on her page that we have some documents that are missing. We have one in red because it's required right now. It needs to be in there. And then I also have one that's just recommended, so it's put there in black. If this were to have, I can upload a document directly here, which will classify it. I can also set an expiration date. And what happens when you set an expiration date, at 28 days before that expires, it will pop back up here and it'll say this expires in 28 days. So I don't know about you, but me keeping track of when my BCBA certification expires, I have to look it up. So to have the ability personally to come into my own page and see that is great. The other thing that obviously from a bigger scale is once I have that set up, it does go back to our document management report. I can look specifically at the BCBA credentialing. I can look for specifically anybody who is labeled a BCBA. And I can see these documents are missing. Hopefully that answered the question you were asking about document management. Let's see. Where does this URL come from? Might want to ask that one a little bit differently. I'm not sure which URL, if you're talking about the client intake, the custom contact form, or one of the documents. How do we control what pops up on the face sheet? So I believe you're talking about clients. So under Lawrence, this is only going to show this information because I have edit privileges. So I have the ability to quickly see this. If I was read only, I would not get as much information. So sometimes different levels in the company may have different permissions to be able to see it. And then the metadata, also you can add the metadata here. And then within the metadata, you can tell it to say, hey, I want this to show on the face sheet. So that's built within your metadata. Hopefully that answered your question. Do you have to share the client with the employer, with the employee for them to be able to add that? So within the system, if an employee is not connected to a client, they won't see anything. So that is something that you do control, the ability to see or do anything in regards to that client. Again, from a HIPAA standpoint, if they shouldn't know that they exist, then they wouldn't be connected. Once you do connect them, you do have the ability to say, okay, I want you connected, but only able to see a little bit, or connected in full access to edit information. Anytime you see this pencil, that means you're going to have the ability to edit information. Gives you a lot more power. You can come in and change addresses, phone numbers, things like that. Great questions, everybody. And again, if we missed any, which I think we covered most, but if we did miss any, go ahead and retype your question. All right, well, I'm not seeing any more coming in, but I will hold on here for another minute or two until questions have been answered. All right. Well, if you don't have any other questions, we thank you for participating today. If there's anything that we can get you more information on, please reach out to your success lead or sales team, or spend some time in our marketplace, download some information. I hope you found this webinar today to be helpful, and hopefully you've got a few takeaways that you can add to your own practice. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. I'm going to go ahead and end this webinar now.